Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are so happy to have you here with us. Welcome to New Faculty Orientation. This 2020 NFO is different than some of our past orientations, but the thing that is the same is that we are thrilled to welcome you to UNLV. My name is Melissa Bowles-Terry. I'm the Associate Director of the Faculty Center, and my colleague David Schwartz, the Associate Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs, is sort of my co-MC today. So we'll be your guides to our short program. We're looking forward to a great discussion with you all. First today, we're going to hear from our brand new president, Dr. Keith Whitfield, whose start date is next Monday, I think. It's not quite here yet. Then we'll hear from Dr. Chris Heavey, who's the interim vice president and provost, and then Dr. Vicki Rosser, who's the chair of the Faculty Senate. We have the last portion of this session dedicated to a question and answer session with all of you, and Dave and I will moderate that. We have questions that you submitted in advance that we'll pose to our guests, and we welcome additional questions from you as you listen to our speakers and as you think about any of the new faculty orientation material that you've interacted with online. We're happy to talk libraries, technology, teaching, parking, etc. All questions are welcome.
Thank you very much, Melissa. We have a couple of housekeeping items before we really get underway here. First of all, if you want to ask a question, you can put it in the Q&A. That should be on the right side of your screen. It's advisable that you send it to all panelists. Don't send it to one person because we might not see it. Also, closed captioning is available at the bottom right of your screen. You can either expand that or minimize that. Finally, this will be recorded so other people can have the benefit of seeing this wonderful event. Okay, with that, and again, any questions, you can put them in the Q&A on the right side of your screen. And thank you all for being here. So it's now my honor to introduce our new president, Dr. Keith E. Whitfield. Dr. Whitfield is a seasoned university administrator and prolific scholar in the fields of psychology, health, and aging. He will become UNLV's 11th president officially on August 24th. Whitfield has previously served as Provost, Senior Vice President of Academic Affairs, and Professor of Psychology at Wayne State University in Michigan. There, he was responsible for faculty hiring, promotion and tenure, and budget and policies for faculty and staff. He also oversaw student affairs, including student success, curriculum, and housing. Under his leadership, the university achieved remarkable gains in its graduation rate, increased overall enrollment, launched an innovation and entrepreneurship hub, and strengthened multiple business and philanthropic relationships. An active administrator and researcher, Whitfield has authored or co-authored over 200 publications and has earned nearly $20 million in funding from agencies including the National Institutes of Health, National Institute on Aging, and the National Science Foundation. A psychologist and expert on the social, psychological, and cultural factors of cognition and healthy aging, Whitfield's current research focuses on the relationship between stress and longevity in African American families. He is a member of the NIA's National Advisory Council on Aging, and he has served in committees for the National Academies of Sciences and Medicine and the National Institutes of Health. Prior to Wayne State, Whitfield served as Vice Provost for Academic Affairs at Duke University and held appointments as a professor in the Department of Psychology and Neuroscience, a research professor in the Department of Geriatric Medicine at Duke University Medical Center, and a senior fellow at the Center for the Study of Aging and Human Development. He also was the co-director of the Center on Biobehavioral Health Disparities Research. Whitfield is the first African-American president in UNLV's history and oversees a university with more than 31,000 students and 4,000 full-time employees. He has worked in higher education for more than 3 decades and has received numerous national awards and honors throughout his career. He earned a bachelor's degree in psychology from the College of Santa Fe, a PhD in lifespan developmental psychology from Texas Tech University, and completed postdoctoral training in quantitative genetics from the University of Colorado Boulder. So now, Dr. Whitfield, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa and Lenny. And is it David Winnie or Winnie David?
Winnie David
Winnie
is,
David. Okay.
is the host. Yeah, my name's just Dave Schwartz. I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. I am in transit, almost crossing the country to try to get to you all so I can be a part of the UNLV community. I'm very excited. I hope that you all too, joining us for the first time, are very excited about the wonderful opportunities that are going to be here this year. Now, it may sound a little funny to say that, given we're in the midst of COVID, we're having to have this session, for example, Zoomed rather than having it in person. But I think that for all of us that are starting new at UNLV, we really got to think about the ways in which we can actually be innovative, try things that we've not necessarily done before, and make sure that we're keeping both our teaching and our research at levels of excellence that we're used to and that we aspire to. A lot of people have been asking me what my vision for UNLV is, and even have told me that I have some vision for UNLV. And I would say that I don't have a fixed vision. I do have some ideas, but I'm actually looking to create a vision that's actually one from a collective action perspective, where I hear faculty like you to be able to think about the things in which you're going to make sure that we can launch the university and take it to the next level in terms of the greatness that it's already been able to achieve. So I just want to say hello. I hope that I see some of you all on campus. I do start officially on the 24th. I have been gearing up, like you all probably have, for the semester and trying to learn as much as I can. But there's still lots more to be learned, and I think there's lots more for us to be able to do. I hope that you stay committed to being able to work with our students in these tough times. I think that flexibility is one of the hallmarks of what instructors and faculty have to do in these days. And I hope that you actually find ways to be able to truly enjoy your students and be able to enjoy that interaction, even though it's not in our traditional way of doing things. So I just wanted to have an opportunity to say hello and greetings to you, and that I'm looking forward to having a great first year with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Whitfield. So nice to see you. Thanks so much for joining us while you're traversing the country. It's great. So my next speaker is going to be Dr. Chris Heavey. He's the interim executive vice president and provost at UNLV. In this role, he is the university's chief academic officer, and he's working closely with the president overseeing academic, budgetary policies and priorities for the campus. Chris is a professor of psychology and a licensed psychologist. He conducts research to improve understanding of the inner experience and its relationship to mental health. He's one of the nation's leading scholars in the thoughts and feelings that make up the consciousness of people as they go about their everyday lives. Dr. Heavey has been at UNLV for more than 27 years, during which time he's been recognized for his award-winning work in various ways. He's also held several leadership and administrative positions over his career, including Senior Vice Provost, Dean of Liberal Arts, Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education, Director of General Education, and Associate Dean, and he served as President of the Nevada State Psychology Board. So I will turn it over to you, Chris.
Thank you, and delighted to be with you all today, and delighted to see President Whitfield well and healthy as he transports himself across the country to join us, along with you all, for the start of the new school year. It's a really exciting time for us always to welcome new students and new faculty and staff to the campus. Really sorry that we can't do it in person. The one thing I regret about this moment is I don't get to see all your smiling faces and say hello in person, but we're all trying to learn to adapt to this new situation that we're facing and figure out how to carry out our mission of serving students in our community under these altered circumstances. So I just want to say, kind of echo some of the comments of President Whitfield. We're welcoming you to a campus that is a very vibrant place and very diverse student body, and in a really world-class city. It's a place where you as a faculty member are going to have the opportunity to make the difference in the lives of many first-generation students who often wouldn't go to college if they weren't able to attend UNLV here in their local community. And so in that way, I think it's a really special opportunity to contribute to the lives and the futures of the students who come to our campus. And I hope you feel proud of that opportunity and are excited about being able to be a part of that mission. And one of the things that I think about as provost most often is that the way that we fulfill our mission as a university is by supporting you, the faculty and staff of the campus. One of the things that I understand is that I sit in this office actually most of the time and have meetings. I'm not out there in the classrooms and teaching the students and doing the research as much as you will be as the frontline faculty and staff of the university. And so I see my job as creating the conditions for you to be successful in that work. And I spend my days thinking about how I can empower you and honor the effort that you're putting into enriching those lives and building a scholarship and increasing the knowledge base of the world and enriching humanity through creative experiences and all of the various ways in which this large and incredibly complex campus engages with the students and the broader community around us. And so I think it's a really exciting time and a really exciting place. We are, as we said, welcoming you under strained conditions that exist across the nation and really the world. We spent a lot of time this summer thinking about how to operate safely. And if you haven't seen it already, we have a very comprehensive COVID website that's you can get to just by looking at the UNLV homepage. It's listed right there, and it has a lot of information, and we've been trying to share out information with students and with faculty and staff about the new procedures that we're going to be operating under for this semester until we get past this current pandemic. And I'll also say that we're welcoming you in a challenging budget moment, which is also not unique to UNLV. It's happening across the country. And we've put in place steps to be able to get through this budget challenge this year, and we'll continue to plan proactively to make sure that we can fulfill our mission despite those challenges. Those things being said, I think one of the things that we can be excited about and feel proud about is that UNLV has a bright future going forward. UNLV is the sole R1 university in a city of 2.3 million people. And we often talk about that it's a city that looks like the future. It's a city that's very diverse and vibrant, and it's what the world is going to look like going forward. And so we have an opportunity to show how a community engaged research university can be a central pillar of the success of a large and diverse community. And so I think that's, again, a great opportunity for us all to work in a field that we all care about and have the ability to enrich people's lives through our day-to-day activities, which I think is really something that I'm excited about every day. And I hope you feel honored to have that opportunity as well. So those are the kind of main thoughts I want to share. We've got a great staff, and you've gotten a chance to meet Dave Schwartz and Melissa Bowles-Terry, who are just a few of the members of the provost team that work directly to support faculty and staff. And over the coming days, you'll learn that there is a broad infrastructure across this campus to support your success with our deans and our other vice presidents and our department chairs and all of the various people who make this complex organization function effectively. And so it'll take a little bit to get used to all of those complexities and learn people's names and maybe figure out where you need to go or who you need to ask when you have a certain need. But this new faculty orientation, I know, is designed to give you a good start on that learning curve. And everyone involved in this meeting today and everyone going forward will be eager to be of assistance to you anytime we can be. So really excited to have you joining us. I'm really excited to be welcoming a new president to the university. I'm excited to get through this semester, which will be a little more challenging than most, but I know we'll get through it. And as I said, we've got a really bright future as a university serving this community and the tens of thousands of students who call UNLV their home. So thanks, and I'll turn it back to David and Melissa, and happy to have a discussion and answer questions.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, Provost Heavey. We're going to hear next from Vicki Rosser. Vicki Rosser is the UNLV Faculty Senate Chair and Professor of Higher Education in the Department of Educational Psychology and Higher Education. Her research interests include faculty and mid-level administrative work-life issues, leadership, and academic governance. Vicki has conducted national, institutional, and system-wide studies on faculty and administrative staff members' workload and productivity institutional and professional work life, morale and satisfaction, and retention in intended departure. So Vicki, it's up to you now.
I went away.
You're back.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, there we go. Okay, next slide. This is how shared governance is defined, but in a nutshell, the way I look at it is it's a structure and process of decision making. You engage all the appropriate stakeholders and constituent groups, and you bring them together, and you try to achieve consensus on any given topic at any given time. Next. Here's some examples of external constituents versus internal constituents. And I'm not going to read those to you, but it gives you a good sense of who and how many people can be ultimately involved in a decision-making process. Next. There are two primary areas of shared governance. There's the external, which is the Board of Regents, visitors or trustees, depending on where you're located in the country. Some are called visitors, some are called trustees. Ours are called Board of Regents. And then I'm going to go over briefly the faculty governance structure. Next. Boards, again, most often referred to as trustees, they're involved in this trust relationship. They manage the institution in the public interest. They account for actions that are taken, funds used. So basically, they have a fiduciary responsibility, and they also hire and fire the president. And good news, we have a new president, so we're pretty happy about that. Next. In terms of faculty governance, there are three primary areas. You have departments, you have senates, and you have committee structures. Next. The department or your unit that you're placed in is really the key to decision making for your own professional work life. It is often referred to as the locus of control that faculty have, and you oversee certain the entry to students into your programs. You look at advising, you look at policy within your programs and department areas. And it's just curricular is huge. It's one of the last bastions on earth that faculty still own pretty well, and that's our curriculum. Next. The Senate structure is typically representative. Once in a while I hear somebody say, well, it's not representative. Well, yes, it is, because they're voted on. And if you don't like your senator that's representing you, then vote him or her out. Get rid of them. But we have a great group of senators. They're fully engaged, and many of them stayed fully engaged during the summer, which was great. And we have the primary function of a Senate is legislative in some ways. You know, we look at different policies, we look at bylaws, we look at curriculum, admission, those kinds of things. We're also an advisory function. And that's where we're consulted very often from the president or the provost, and we're to sort of review policy or things that may arise during the you know, the academic year, and they consult us. And the big one that everybody always, you know, talks about is the promotion and tenure review. And we're fully engaged in that. And many of us have served on that committee many times. And then there's the advisory function. Again, it is still advisory, but we also have committees. We're not a member of the Board of Regents, but we do have all the faculty senate chairs across the system do have the chancellor's ear. We meet with him in this case, and then going forward it'll be a woman, Melody Rose. but we meet with them once a month and convey our concerns, our campus concerns. We also have the executive committee on the Senate. We have senators that are elected by all of you. Then we have senior senators who is like the lead person within your college and unit. And I meet with them once a month. And then we have the executive committee that oversees the Senate, but a smaller decision-making group to help represent all of you to the president and the provost. And then, of course, my favorite function is the forensic function, where people love to hold forth and they love to generate wisdom. And I just love that part of it. Next. And then the committee structure. I'm going to tell you right now, I think committee work is probably the most powerful and most important work that we all can do or contribute to. We have task force, we have ad hoc committees. Again, we have Senate Executive Committee, we have senior senators. And if you go to the Faculty Senate website there, you can see the many types of committees that we have. The overarching areas are those three, but within those three overarching areas, you have all these other committees. It's a great way to get involved, and if you have a passion about something in particular, you'll love to get engaged in those areas. We have some great committee chairs this year. I'm looking forward to working with them all. Next. And just a couple final thoughts. I just think that I believe in faculty governance. I've been on the Senate for many years. I've been on T&P committees for years. I've been on bylaws. I've been on multiple committees. I think it's a great way to engage in the university, meet people outside of your area too, which to me is the fun part. I get to meet people all over campus with great expertise that they bring, and they all come together to share the authority, to bring power and influence to these committees and these structures. And sometimes we need you for the political arena, and we'll talk about that another time. But I'm going to tell you something. Governance is a deeply held tradition across institutions of higher education. And I always tell faculty, if we don't engage in becoming part of the process, someone else will do it for us. So it's really important to, when you're ready, as you move along in your professional career, to engage within the governance process. That's it. Next. And then we'll get to questions and comments in a bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. We really appreciate you being here and sharing some thoughts about faculty governance. It's really helpful. So y'all, we are going to move to questions and answers in just a moment, but Dave and I wanted to share a few further resources before we jump into the Q&A. Dave, do you want to talk about HR onboarding?
I do. I just shared a link in the chat, which you should see on the right side of your screen. I hope that went through. I did on mine. The HR onboarding, you should be receiving an invitation to it. If you haven't already, you can go to that link and you can find it there. I'm also going to share the link for the new faculty orientation page. Odds are you've already seen it, but you never know.
Something I'll point out on the new faculty orientation page is that we're offering one-on-one consultations this week that should be particularly useful for teaching faculty. If you would like some input, some feedback, or some questions answered about your online teaching, about getting started in Canvas or anything like that, go to that new faculty website and sign up for a new faculty consultation, and we'd be happy to meet with you this week. So hopefully that is a useful resource for you.
Great. I've put that link in the chat too, and I'm going to share one more link. We have a brand new program here at UNLV called the First Year Faculty Cohorts, and all first year faculty can join this, and you get put into a group of about 10 other faculty, I guess 9 other if it's groups of 10. And we have programming and all kinds of other stuff, and it should be a lot of fun. So you can follow that link to get involved with that and sign up for that.
There's that. So also one other link, this is the last one, I promise. We'd love for you to check out the Faculty Center website. There it is. We have events happening in the next couple of weeks, especially regarding online teaching, getting started your first day teaching online or remotely. And we also are offering weekly meditation sessions. So if you have 30 minutes tomorrow, Tuesday at noon, we're doing mindful meditation with Dr. Donna Costa, who is fantastic. She's an occupational therapist and trained in mindfulness meditation. So just, take a moment for yourself, think about your needs and your professional development options that are out there. And we are looking forward to seeing you at some of those upcoming events.
Okay, so we can move into the questions now, and I'll start with a question that we got from the RSVPs. This is a very big question, so it makes sense that it's first. The question is, what are the strategic plans to grow as an R1 university? As you may know, UNLV has received Carnegie R1 designation, and of course we want to grow. So the question is, what are the strategic plans to grow as an R1 university?
So President Whitfield, do you want to chime in on that one, or you want me to start off?
Well, let's do like we've been doing. Let's tag team on this one. Why don't you start with what we have in our current plans, and I'll talk about some of the things that you and I have talked about, that I've talked about, and a couple of ideas that I have growing that particular issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So the university has what we call the top tier strategic plan, and it lists a variety of metrics that we focus on trying to grow our research impact, scholarship, and our student success and community impact as well. And we've been engaged in this plan for about 5 years and been making meaningful progress on all of the metrics that are measured within that plan. In terms of the R1 metrics, one of the things that we recognize is that those are a subset of the broader goals that we have as a campus in terms of student success and community impact, et cetera, because those goals for R1 measurements focus in particular on research expenditures, doctoral student production, non-faculty researchers, and the like. And we actually have now just submitted the next set of metrics for the next determination that will come out in about 18 months in terms of identifying whether UNLV remains on the R1 list. And so essentially, those metrics are sealed or done now. They're kind of all in the bag, so to speak, but we'll continue to try to drive those forward. And as President Whitfield said, he's bringing great experience from multiple R1 institutions that are really well established in this space and much more of a history than UNLV has. And so he's already been talking with us about some of the ways that we can try to grow these strategic efforts. And so I'll hand it to you for that.
Thanks a lot, Chris. So, one of the things that Chris mentioned was about our current financial situation. And it's one that, of course, lots of universities across the country are facing. But one of the things that you can find interesting, and you may not agree with this, but, maybe go along with me for a minute here, is the idea that you don't have to grow the faculty to be able to grow research. I think sometimes think that you just got to have more warm bodies who, each one are contributing individually. And what you see from a lot of really successful universities like the University of Washington, actually, that after the downturn, they were extremely dependent on research dollars, found that they didn't have any. So what did? They didn't just give up. They actually started working together and across different areas, such that on the backside of the downturn, they actually came out stronger because they had more pieces to their portfolio than just individual investigators. Now, I'm not saying that we already don't. Actually, at UNLV have some centers and institutes that are already doing some very good things, but I think those need to be one of the points in which we actually try to build more interdisciplinary research, more translational research that might come out of our health sciences areas, dentistry, nursing, and medicine, and public health for sure. But it'll be that kind of cross collaboration and excitement. Actually, I have to say that I'm a big fan of faculty governance as well. I have spent a lot of time over the years working with faculty governance, and one of the things that you see that is a model of faculty governance is that actually coming together as groups of faculty, we can do very, very powerful things. And so that's going to be some of the things that Chris and I are going to be working on, even in the fall, even in this remote setting that we are, is thinking about ways in which we can actually get touch points into areas of research that we've not had before. Sometimes it's just truly, it's putting a couple of people together. We recently were talking about with the one faculty member who wanted to do something on health disparities, but didn't know the right people to be able to interconnect. And so that's low-hanging fruit. We are working now to make sure that that person actually knows some other folks and is going to put in a program project. So, we also need to make sure that we're diversified through all of the NIH institutes as well as NSF. Those tend to be the ones that give us the biggest bang for the buck in terms of research dollars. But one of the really interesting things that Chris mentioned was about research expenditures. Research expenditures always fall behind research dollars that come in, but it's a very important metric. And it's one of those things that now actually we've got to work with our faculty to make sure that they're doing everything that they can to actually produce expenditures, that they're spending the grant money that they get. I'm actually bringing a grant with me. And one of the things that I'm struggling with is that with COVID hitting, we've slowed down a little bit. And I know what that means in terms of research expenditures. It's a very important metric, and we make sure that we keep track of all of those. But I think that we're going to try to find ways, working through the provost office in particular, to be able to facilitate lots of cross-collaborative, cross-team sorts of ideas. There may even be some opportunities for what I like to call, Chris has never heard this, so I apologize, Chris, but blue sky thinking. That's where you stop being limited by what you think you can do and think about what you should do or can do, and think a little bit bigger. And that takes the right kind of event, the right kind of situation, the right kind of circumstance to be able to do that. And that's how we, again, grow and foster different ideas to be able to develop research. So it's a great question to ask. Know that that's something that we have all been talking about and thinking about specifically. The one other thing I'll mention, because I'm just excited to be here with you all, so I'm trying to calm down, but I tell you, the other piece of it is making sure that our graduate students are successful. A lot of times we talk about undergraduate student success, and Chris did a great job of talking about the kinds of students that you're going to get to work with. And one piece of that population is graduate students. We need to make sure that they're as successful as possible because graduation rates are important. But we also need to think about whether we do have the capacity to maybe grow, not a lot, but a few very strategic, very successful, where students get out and get postdocs and get job opportunities, but some additional areas for PhD programs. There's probably a little bit, without even any investment, just because you actually frame curriculum in a different way. Again, an important purpose and role and contribution the Faculty Senate is going to be able to make for us. But those are just some of the things that we've already been thinking about. As I finish making my way across the country, I'm going to call Chris on the way and see if we can figure out 100 more that we can do. But thank you very much for the question.
Thank you. And I've got another question for you. This came in from the chat on the right. Dr. Whitfield, I might not get another chance to ask you, what are your top 3 recommendations for aging well?
Oh, wow. Okay. And let's hope too that we do get a chance to actually meet. We have so many faculty, but believe it or not, one of my hidden goals is I won't remember all your names. I study cognition and memory, and I know I'm not going to remember all of them, but I want to be able to meet our faculty. And I do consider myself a faculty member. I've got to work on that a little bit because people want to give me that title, but I still think about myself as a faculty member. And as a faculty member, I actually just finished reviewing an article this weekend that was on longevity and talking about some of the different psychosocial ways, in addition to biological ways, that might help us to be able to live long lives. And you asked the right question. Let's not only live long lives, but actually live well. So let's see. If I was going to give the top 3, the first one, and I think it's the quintessential one, is to actually make sure that you manage stress and find ways to be able to cope with stress. Stress is unavoidable, but the way in which we cope with it actually is a way in which we keep ourselves mentally and physically well. A second piece would be making sure that we keep good social connections. Those social connections help to reduce stress, to help make sure that we take care of ourselves in the right sorts of ways, and also bring value to life. And then the third would just be, let's call it maintenance. For lots of different populations that end up being different people in those populations. Sometimes we do a better or a worse job in terms of making sure that we maintain our health, making sure that you see a doctor regularly, making sure that you follow what they ask you to adhere to is so very important. I work with special populations and populations sometimes that have felt like they are not welcome in the healthcare system. And what you see is that the way that they take care of their health is through the emergency room. And that ultimately always puts them at a deficit because rather than being preventative, they're actually reactionary. And when you're reactionary, eventually it's going to catch up with you and you succumb to different health conditions. So that maintenance piece of it is very important. I'd probably throw those three things out as the top three things. Thanks for that question.
Excellent. Thank you for the great answer. So I have another question. I'm going to combine two of the questions that came in through the RSVPs into one. They're both about remote work. And the general tenor of the question is the leadership's commitment to moving towards a progressive workday model for administrators, faculty, and staff. So that could be hybrid from home and office. And basically the question points out the things that work well with remote working, like reducing the carbon footprint. People can be more productive at different times of the day, less commute time. There's also concerns about how UNLV will handle remote work options for faculty who have daycare obligations. So I'll just throw that question out for whoever wants to take that one on. Remote work.
Yeah, Chris, will you kick in and chime in with that one? Let me say that I was very involved with the plan that we had at Wayne State in terms of trying to be able to restart and see what we do for the fall. I've read the document that I think Chris really did lead and had a lot to have to say about, and am incredibly, get a chance to read it. I hope that we can put up maybe the link to that website. But you'll see that it is extremely detailed and it does touch on this point. So Chris, maybe you can really provide some of the UNLV perspective on this.
Sure. Yeah, as President Whitfield said, we've absolutely been committed to trying to support faculty and staff through this crisis while maintaining the work for in support of our mission. And so definitely there on the coronavirus website, there is a process to request to be approved for remote work. And it goes through the supervisors. And as long as the supervisors feel like the work can be done remotely, that process can be approved. And going forward, we clearly have learned that a lot of the kinds of things that used to be done in person can be done well remotely. And so we'll be factoring that into our long-term strategic planning as we think about campus operations long past the duration of the pandemic. And so, yes, remote work, we're supporting it in all instances in which it is possible, and we're asking supervisors to have a great deal of flexibility and supporting the faculty and staff of our community as we work through this.
Okay, next question is also combining a few questions. These are questions about tenure and promotion flexibility. One question was generally about the pre-tenure flexibility policy, which I have just sent in the chat, but I'm sure Provost Heavey may want to talk a bit more about that. Second question was specific to COVID-19. If somebody's research is practice-based and it's been impacted by COVID-19, how will that be reflected in the tenure and promotion timeline?
Okay, so everybody comes in for all the tenure track faculty with a 5-year window and then is reviewed for promotion and tenure in the 6th year. So we do not currently award years toward tenure for faculty, but as David referred to, we have a tenure flexibility process. And through that process, people can request early consideration for tenure review and promotion. And the way that process basically works is a faculty member would talk to the department chair, and then after that, the dean. And if the department chair and dean recommend that, it's up to provost approval to allow people to be considered early for tenure and promotion. And we do fairly routinely have those requests, and we are inclined to approve those when we get them, assuming the faculty member is well positioned to have a favorable review. And that's the main thing, is we don't want people to go up early and then not be approved for tenure and promotion. So, and we found that process works better than awarding years toward tenure, because often when we awarded people years toward tenure, they would come back later and want to give us those years back because they felt like they needed more time in order to be fully prepared for the review that they were going to go through. So that's why we've shifted in the direction of this tenure flexibility policy. We also have approved, and we have a form out there for anybody who needs an extension of their tenure clock as due to the COVID crisis. And those we've agreed to approve those one-year extensions essentially automatically. And so we've already had quite a few faculty who are in their probationary period request one-year extensions of their tenure clock. And for incoming tenure track faculty, if the COVID crisis does delay the start of the research, you can request that delay in your extension of your probationary period, essentially, through that process. And it's run through the Office of the Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs. And Dave Schwartz is a great contact person to help with that paperwork or forms if you have any questions.
Yeah, I'll say if you do have any TMP questions, you can ask me, and this is one of the things we will be talking about in our first year cohort. So we have another question that came in from the chat, and the question is about Hey Reb, our mascot. The question is, what is the status future of Hey Reb? Do you see UNLV moving through this process of changing a mascot?
I'm going to defer to President Whitfield on this one.
Yeah, you're giving me all the easy ones, right, Chris? Okay. You know, this is these are unprecedented times, and I think that there is a real interesting intersection between what we're going through with COVID and then the social justice movement that we see happening in this country. And so I found it fascinating that very proactively the president had had the statue removed, and then what was left was the idea about the future, about what Hey Reb would really even mean at UNLV. I don't necessarily have a dog in the fight, other than that I really want to know what our students think. I want to know what our faculty thinks, and I want to know what our community thinks. In some ways, we have an interesting bit of additional time to make sure that we consider this and try to get it right, because it doesn't look like we're going to have fall sports. So, which I think we at least in part, first and foremost, think about that symbol with our sports teams, but it does represent something larger. And I think that's the reason why we should have a much larger discussion with the faculty, with students, with the community, and see what they think and how we should go forward. I have my own, ideas about things, and I think it's because I see the university, at least for now, as from the outside. And that is that the University of Nevada, Las Vegas is very much so represented by the four letters, which is UNLV. I think internally we understand and think about Hey Reb differently. And so it'll be interesting for me as somebody coming from the outside new to learn a little bit about that and to plot a course going forward. But it's going to be one that we do as a university community.
It's a great question. Thank you so much for asking and for addressing. Another question that came in early was about the relationship between the UNLV School of Medicine and UNLV Medicine faculty going forward and how they relate to the main campus. The School of Medicine is still sort of new-ish. We're 3 years in, I think. So any thoughts about UNLV School of Medicine?
I can give you some of my thoughts. I'd also like to hear from Chris, just simply because I am still gearing up on all of this. And some of my perspective actually comes from having been at places like at Duke. It was fascinating. Although I was in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, my window looked right at the medical school. So it was maybe 25 yards away. But interestingly enough, on that campus, sometimes you felt like the medical school was 100 miles away, which was interesting. I was at Penn State for a lot of years, and the medical school was 100 miles away. And the idea that you have a medical school that actually is integrated and connected to the university, I think is very important. There are many things that happen relative to health and healthcare and social and behavioral determinants of health, all of those things that it's nice to have the benefit of having those two have connection. Now, the idea of having a separate medical health sciences campus actually strengthens our health sciences, but it's not always about the exact physical nature. I think it is about how those deans actually interact and interconnect with one another and make sure that as we think about the different missions, for example, in COVID-19 and making sure that we try to make our community safe, that everyone is involved in it, not just one or the other, or that they work independently, that they should work in tandem. One of the things that for many of you all who, if you've been anyplace else, know that in higher ed, we've got this proclivity towards siloing, and that, everybody wants to kind of be a tub on their own bottom. Great universities don't work that way. What they do is they work both ways. They both are tubs on their own bottom and are ones that are interconnected. They have kind of a two-purpose mission of that. Yes, they have to carry out and think about their disciplinary natures, even if it comes down to like accreditation or where they're going to make decisions about how they're going to go forward in terms of building strengths, which is one of the things that I think that we need to do at UNLV. We have things like hospitality, which is internationally known, but we need to make sure that not only are they internationally known, but there's ways in which they connect with the rest of the university as well as to the community. I think that same thing goes for the medical school. You bring up an interesting point that because they are young, because they're new, we can find ways to make sure that we develop a culture that actually makes them so that they don't feel like they're a set aside out by themselves, that they are part of the university. That's a cultural piece that just takes leadership, like Chris and the deans, and the faculty, to make sure that we keep our eye towards making sure that we keep that balance very, very healthy of being particular disciplines.
Yeah, and I'll just echo, President Whitfield's comments. We're so excited to see the medical school growing and to see them moving toward graduating their first class, and absolutely understand the development of an academic health center is crucial to, as the first question referred to, our R1 mission, and creating the interconnections between the School of Medicine and all of the other areas on campus will be really critical to growing the research footprint of the whole campus. And so it's an ongoing process. We've got a new dean in the School of Medicine who just joined us in the spring and is doing great work leading that team, moving toward the full accreditation visit also this coming fall. And so we see that as a key opportunity to grow the R1 impact, the community impact of the School of Medicine, and integrate them with the whole research mission of the campus.
Great. And on the topic of research, and you both have touched on this a little bit already, Dr. Whitfield and Dr. Heavey, but can you talk any more about research support? What's available for new faculty getting started with their research agendas? I mentioned and posted the Faculty Center's website. We have events and programs to support research, including a book group this fall that's about a book called How to Write a Lot, and we'd welcome you all to join us there. We also have writing groups, and we'll be doing some other programming about research support. But what else could you add there, Dr. Heavey, Dr. Whitfield?
You want to go ahead, President Whitfield?
No, Chris, I think what they're asking for, what are the kinds of internal grant opportunities that are there, and I'm sure you're so much better versed in them than I am, but I'll just add before I get out of the way is to say that I hope that we can add some more. That as Chris was talking about all of the differences that are going on now in terms of trying to maybe, if you need to delay some of your research or your tenure clock, I'd also hope that we're actually delaying the amount of time that you have to spend down startup monies, so that you can make sure that you preserve those. But there should be some other things as well, I think, that he and I will be talking about that'll be other ways to generate even more research. But what are some of those existing ones, Chris?
Yes, absolutely. And that's something we've been working on this past year to make sure that we're laying the foundations. And so we started with the basic services in the research division and made sure that our Office of Sponsored Programs has been adding adequate staff to be able to support people in grant submissions, and that the IRB is adding some staff to be able to make sure that the review times for research are short enough so that people can progress with their projects. I've been talking with the Vice President of Research about launching what we call the Faculty Opportunity Awards, and we'll work with President Whitfield on that this fall to have small grants available focused on untenured tenure track faculty to make sure that they're able to get seed money to start their projects. And we have a research foundation that has already indicated that they're willing to put some support behind us offering those awards. We've done that in the past, but they hadn't been available for a few years. And so we really want to bring those back in the near future. And as President Whitfield said, we definitely have offered startup money to some of our incoming faculty and to help them get their research programs off the ground. And we also have a startup task force that's making sure that we have a sustainable model for funding startup packages for incoming researchers. And broadly, as Melissa said, that we're trying to do programming in support of researchers. We also have a membership for the campus to the National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity, which is a great resource for new faculty members that offers a wide range of services, but including things on how to be a productive writer and researcher. And that's something that the Faculty Center can tell faculty members how to access, because basically all faculty and staff have access to that as another resource.
Absolutely. We'll share out some information about the National Center for Faculty Diversity and Development, certainly. And we also just had a question about mentoring and mentoring groups. That's another offering through the Faculty Center. We have a tenure track mentoring group that will be meeting this fall that you'll be invited to, and a lot of other mentoring opportunities on campus. We just have 5 minutes left, and we got another question that I know is a really big one, but I think it's really important. So if we could talk just a little bit about this one. What action plan does UNLV have toward anti-racism, social justice, and equity?
Chris, do you want to talk about what's been going on? And maybe I can talk a little bit about some ideas about going ahead in the future?
Yeah, so definitely, as President Whitfield said, we recognize that the current crisis has a very significant social justice component to it. And we've had a number of efforts that have been going on for several years. One of the things that I started this past year is a Minority Serving Institute task force, which is a broad campus-wide task force to make sure that we are engaging all of our faculty and staff and teaching them how to be a minority serving institution because of our diverse and first generation campus community. We also recently started an anti-Black racism task force to put in place a number of steps to try to make sure that we support both our Black students and Black faculty and staff. And that task force has the website. We've listed a number of the different activities that we're taking on in order to make sure that we're being as proactive in this space as possible. And then we're looking forward to working with President Whitfield. And I know he's been a leader in this area in his past work and in his scholarship as well. And so I'm sure he's going to have some great ideas for this going forward.
Well, so now you put me on the spot. Now I got to have great ideas, Chris. Oh my gosh. Well, you know, we've only got a few minutes left, but I would just say that I hope that one of the things that you all did when you were selecting UNLV is what I did, which is that one of the reasons why I was so interested in this position was because this is the most diverse campus in the country. I want to say that the percentage is 57% are non-white students. And what's important about that is that we use it as an opportunity to learn. That if you sit in a room with people that all think the same, that we're all trained the same, you can get a little ways, but you can't get very far. You can actually come up with more exciting information, ideas, thoughts, things to go forward as you think about being able to embrace that diversity. And that diversity is not just limited to race, it's limited to background and gender and lots of other things. And so that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to working with you all as a faculty, to working with the provost office and the deans and everyone else, is thinking about ways that we can actually make sure that we take that wonderful diversity that we have and make sure that it's in the classroom so that people actually learn about what it means to be able to think differently and to appreciate people that are different from who we are. So those are going to be things that go on. It's a piece of UNLV, and I think what we have is a moment in time where we can actually make it even more of a piece of what UNLV is. And my goal is that the whole world is going to understand. UNLV is the place where you actually really do get this 360-degree education of having incredible, exciting, innovative research, having classroom and curricular activities, that not only teach you about the reading, writing, and arithmetic, but actually teach you about what it means to think about and problem solve in a world that's ever changing. Those are the kinds of things I think that we are so poised to be able to be as a university. And I'm looking forward to having this year where you all are contributing to us being able to lead in that direction. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Whitfield. And with that, I think that we will close this session. That's on a very exciting note. I hope you're as excited as I am to move forward this year. I think we have a lot of great opportunities ahead of us, challenges, but great opportunities as well. Dave and I have collected a lot more questions that came in, and we are committed to sending you all responses. So we will be gathering those together from the various chat boxes and Q&A, and we'll be in touch with a kind of a written Q&A. Do you want to say anything else, Dave?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody, thank our panelists, thank our attendees. You know, it's wonderful that you came here on this very hot day as you're getting used to UNLV. And, you know, thank you all for coming. And I hope to see you all on campus and remotely during the upcoming year.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.